week's heart-pounding episode of Ushio and Tora. Ushio's body and soul is slowly being consumed by the power of the Beast Spear, turning him into a true monster on a rampage trying to kill the Hakumen no Mono. This week's episode was an amazing reunion of pretty much every single key player from the Ushio and Tora universe. It also firmly establishes that Ushio himself is quite the ladies' man. Pretty much every single female that Ushio has helped out in the series makes an appearance in this week's episode. His two friends Asako and Mayuko, the beautiful but intimidating Reiko, that one girl who was actually being haunted by her father in the painting. Yu also returns. She was one of the survivors of that aerial assault from that demon. And let's not forget the elegant white-haired Saya. And a lot of them team up together Avengers style because they're going to be the ones who are actually going to be able to bring Ushio back so that he doesn't transform into some weird demonic yokai. They've all been corralled by the Kohamai sect and Ushio's father, who are all going to work together with the other successors of the Beast Spear so that they can stop Ushio. Now, what's really great about this episode, though, is just getting to see all of these characters interact with each other, because a lot of them have never really even seen each other before, and they all seem to have very strong feelings for Ushio. While not all of them will be romantic, it actually does lead to a little bit of tension, as Asako doesn't exactly get along with a lot of them. She absolutely refuses to accept her feelings for Ushio. Either that, or she just does not want to talk about them out loud. So here's the crazy plan in this week's episode. The way that they're going to bring Ushio back is that all of these girls are going to gather together and they're going to comb Ushio's hair. That's literally the explanation they give in this week's episode. They take this special comb, which has been blessed by the Kohamai sect, and has been passed down apparently for generations, and when they actually comb Ushio's hair, which is extremely dangerous because he's a rampaging demon, by the way, parts of his hair will actually be taken away, which will bring him back to his human side. And while all of this is going on, Ushio just continues to run across the landscape as he makes his way to the cave of the Hakumen no Mono so that he can kill him. And while he's doing all of this, he's just rampaging through all of these yokai and demons with no problems whatsoever. It's also worth mentioning that he still has the appearance from the end of last week's episode, which is still incredibly disturbing, with his sharp teeth, his long black hair, and his eyes, which literally look like glass which is cracking. It's absolutely disturbing and just makes him seem really creepy. It's also worth mentioning that Ushio's human consciousness is still around and hanging out inside of his body, it just simply has no power. And he continues to have these really freaky visions, including this one guy who's bleeding from his eyes and actually sort of making the Beast Spear. He claims that he's one of those people who turned into a beast himself and that they've all been dragged into this hellish abyss and that Ushio is the next one on the chopping block. The episode ends with the girls settling their differences as they get ready to save Ushio, ending this week's episode, which was so incredibly intense. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Ushio and Tora? This episode just flew by with its momentum, reintroducing all of the characters, getting right back into the action, firmly establishing what their relationships with Ushio were, and it's amazing. It really makes you appreciate these characters, and I'm really glad to actually see all of these ladies return, because, one, it just doesn't make them seem like one-off characters anymore. They just weren't a part of the Monster of the Week storyline. They're actually going to have to play a more important role in the grand scheme of things, and that's really awesome. It's also worth mentioning, too, that the designs of all the characters are all really distinct, and I think that's a really big accomplishment, because there's a lot of times when you get a lot of female characters together, they all end up looking the same, but each of these girls have their own designs, their own stories, and that makes them really interesting. Ushio in this week's episode was just nuts. At the beginning of the episode, he's just attacking everyone, rampaging. He even stabs Tora, which, to me, for some reason, really deeply disturbed me, because it really shows that his personality is no longer there. He's been completely taken over by this demon form, and because of that, he just attacked Tora with no problems whatsoever, and even Tora himself was pretty freaked out, and you could see just in the voice acting and the expression from that character that he truly felt betrayed by Ushio at that moment, and of course that's why he decides to join in for the battle for the rest of the episode. But without a doubt, the coolest thing about this episode is just getting to see all of these characters come together. I already mentioned all of the main girls that he's actually saved and helped in the series, but of course you have all of the successors of the Beast Spear. You get to see Hinoa and June actually arguing with each other, which we were just formally introduced to these characters, so getting to see them interact is really interesting, and you can see that they've always had something of a rivalry with each other. I also really love the scene where all the girls actually met at the airport and they ran into Ushio's father, but I also love that hanging out in the bathroom just watching was Hio the Exorcist, a character that we've only seen once in the series, and I want to see this guy return because I'm really interested in what his story is. I really want to know what that demon was that actually killed his family, but maybe he was just a pass-away cameo in this episode. Maybe he will actually show up. I really can't wait to see more from that character because he's so freaking awesome. This episode is also really important because it's finally going to firmly establish that Asako finally knows what's going on with Ushio. She's no longer left in the dark, and you can clearly see that in this episode. That's something that she was beating herself up about because she was getting a lot of heat from Yu in this episode because she clearly has feelings for him, but it almost seems like she didn't even really try to stop him, but that's not the case because Ushio left. It's one of the few times where I'm actually kind of interested in a love story in an anime series. I'm really not a big fan of that stuff, but these characters are so fleshed out and seem a little more real that I am generally interested in to see where that's going to be going. Otherwise, this week's episode just moved at a breakneck pace. It never stopped from beginning to end, and that's a trend that I've noticed with Ushio and Tora. It just seems like when I watch an episode, it just flies right by, and the reason for that is because it's really entertaining. This is really a fantastic anime series. My only real complaint, which is not going to reflect the score of this episode, by the way, is that I just recently learned that apparently they've been skipping a lot of the manga chapters from Ushio and Tora, and apparently these chapters that they're skipping are not exactly, like, important to the grand scheme of things, basically just more Monsters of the Week style storytelling, but it's going to get me to read the Ushio and Tora manga series. I really want to see the entire thing from beginning to end. However, I do want to experience the anime version first, because it's still one of the most entertaining shows that I've seen in a long time. It's carrying that 90s spirit, and it's doing so with good production value and some really well done characters. The writing is also very sharp, very quick, this is a fantastic series all around. I'm really, really digging it. So, I loved this episode right here. I loved seeing all of these characters return and work together. It was just some really exciting stuff. So, I'm going to give this week's episode a 5 out of 5. A great episode of Ushio and Tora that longtime fans I'm sure are going to enjoy and new-time fans should definitely check out. But before you guys leave today, I would love to hear your thoughts about this week's episode of Ushio and Tora. Did you like to see the return of all of these classic characters from the series? How about them all teaming up together? Do they really all love Ushio? Do they all have romantic feelings for him? Or is it just Asako? And what do you want to see from the rest of the Ushio and Tora anime series? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews, my Star Wars videos, and our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. Halloween is right around the corner, and in this week's episode, I revealed my top 5 favorite horror movies. If you want to find out what those are, make sure to check out The Powerful Nerdcast and to share it with all of your friends. But thank you guys again for watching. I will see you next time, and as always, stay damn, baby!